perfect. So we are still on time. Uh, the next startup, I don't know whether we can call them a startup. They are really a passionate missionary team. You will kind of hear from Vivek in a little while what they're about. It's a moonshot from India, literally a moonshot. And Vivek is difficult to describe him. He's a successful serial entrepreneur. He sold a company to Synopsys and then Magma Software. He's been back in India for 7 years. I'll come back towards the end and describe what he's been doing for those 7 years. But one of the things that he's active with is this moonshot out of India. So this moonshot is called Team Indus. So Vivek, may I request you to tell us about?
So here, so I'm here in between you and lunch. So therefore, I try to keep it light. But what we're doing here, and thank you for having me here. But we're going to talk about a startup which is not really in a software product startup. We're actually a startup which is planning to land on the moon in December 2017. So planning to land on the moon in December 2017. We're a pioneering space technology company from India, and we are globally competitive and have core system engineering capabilities. And we have a close collaboration with the Indian Space Research Organization. We're about 100 people in this company, and we actually have 100 people, and we have collaborations not just with the Indian Space Research Organization, also with the French Space Agency, and with the planetary program at the University of Colorado. And our technology has been validated, and we actually have a launch contract to launch our spacecraft to the moon next year. And the team is about 100 people. It consists of 75 very smart young people, as well as 20 retired ISRO scientists who now work for us as part of this private mission. So what are we doing here? We're actually competing for the Google Lunar X Prize. So the Google Lunar X Prize actually has a very, very simple statement. You've got to take a space, you have to actually land something on the moon, soft land something on the moon, traverse 500 meters on the lunar surface, and actually send back high-definition video. And the first team to do this actually wins a prize of $20 million. And there are they started off with 30 teams in the world attempting to do this. And right now, we are among the top 3 teams in the world to do this. And just earlier this week, we announced our launch contract with ISRO. So therefore, we actually signed a launch contract with ISRO. So we will be launched. So the way it works is that we'll be launched on a PSLV rocket into low Earth orbit. And after that, we're going to take about 20 days in our own spacecraft to go to the moon and soft land on the moon. And after that, we have a rover on the moon, which will actually traverse the 500 meters on the lunar surface and actually send back the high-definition video. So, and this is something, obviously, which has actually been done only by 3 countries so far. I mean, and no private companies. No private companies ever done this in the world. The Americans and the Russians have done this in the 60s and the 70s, and the Chinese landed on the moon in 2013. And we hope when Team Indus wins this competition, we will be the 4th person to achieve this. So I think, let me give you a little bit of an idea of what our spacecraft really looks like. So therefore, the mission is actually to have a lander and a rover, which lands on the moon. And it will take about 25 days in orbit, and it will have a surface operation for about 10 days on the moon. And when it's launched, it's going to be launched on the ISRO's PSLV, and it's going to be 600 kilograms when we launch it. And it has the capability of actually carrying about 25 kilograms of payload, which includes our own rover, which is about 10 kilograms. And we plan to launch in December of 2017, and we're planning to land on the moon in January of 2018. And so that gives you an idea of what the mission is about. And the mission itself is actually something that, what you do is once you're launched by the PSLV, You actually spend a bunch of orbits in the Earth orbit, and then you actually go to the moon in what's known as the lunar transfer trajectory, and then you spend about another 10 days in lunar orbit before you attempt the descent. And what's one of the most interesting parts of this is actually to do the final descent, the autonomous descent. So this is something that the spacecraft is traveling at Mach 5, and in 900 seconds, you've got to do a gymnastics landing on the surface of the moon, which you really don't know where you're going to be. And I think that's something which is obviously one of the key challenges in actually achieving this Google Lunar X Prize. And once you're on the moon, we have a rover, and the rover is actually going to traverse on the lunar surface, the 500 meters, and actually send back live high-definition video back to the Earth. And that's really the extent of the mission itself. And obviously, this is a global competition. That an Indian team is actually in the lead for this kind of a competition is something that's amazing. And I think it can lead to really, obviously it's a source of great pride for us in India, but also it's really can be the start of a new kind of industry. Here already we're seeing in software products, we're doing a bunch of things here which are making the world stand up and take notice. But this can build a whole new class of industry from India as a result of this. And as part of this mission, we want to involve and engage all Indians. And I think that's and as part of this, we're going to have a crowdfunding program where we hope to actually send and involve 30 million Indians giving 500 rupees to actually have sent their names to the moon. And that's a way to actually involve a large number of Indians into this. and I think so. No. Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a very interesting. And I think so. This is really something that, I think this is something that we see as a democratization of the process to actually involve everybody in something like this. And of course, when we're doing this, we're actually planning to all the technologies that we build as a result of this is, a lunar mission is very nice. But the goal is to actually build an aerospace company out of it. And all the things right from mission planning, operations and flight dynamics, system engineering, spacecraft controls, structures and mechanisms, we actually have all the competencies to do all these things. And then we can leverage these things to actually become a globally viable aerospace company. So I think the question here is, it's a global first. Where will you be on December 28, 2017?
For a mission like this, all of it has come from India.
Yes.
And they need to raise how many more?
So the entire mission costs about $65 million. And we have basically three main kind of buckets that we have for this. The first is equity funding, where we are approximately 80% of the way through. But still, anybody who's interested, please talk to me. And then we also have two other major buckets. One is that we actually have, as part of this mission, we have extra payload, which we are selling commercially, including to potentially other teams in the competition. And we have, of course, there's a sponsorship and crowdfunding element to it. That's another way. And then, of course, also, because this is something that from the government, we are looking for various things such as tax waivers and things like that, which can actually, and actually carrying payloads for Indian scientific missions, which can actually help reduce the costs of this mission. So it's certainly a very interesting fundraising kind of, I don't know what to say, interesting to fundraise for something like this. But we think we can do it.
So Vivek, don't go away. Yes. So one thing he'll hate me for saying that most of the payload, the Japanese are likely to buy that because they are kind of very particular about making sure that they are buying the right stuff, and that's another validation for the team apart from all the milestone awards that they've won. But I didn't do a complete introduction of Vivek on purpose because he's a sucker for these crazy projects. Has anybody here heard of Aadhaar, the unique identity system that is there? Amongst the 8 things in the world that have 1 billion users, there is only one outside US, and that is Aadhaar. And believe it or not, that's reached 1 billion people faster than anything else. Later this afternoon, we'll have Neeraj Arora here. You know, the one that is second in five years, 8 months was WhatsApp, but 5 years, 5 months is Aadhaar. And his day job is actually as the architect for Aadhaar. For the last 7 years, he has been an iSPIRT volunteer. He did these exits that I just talked to you about. And for 7 years, he has been a pro bono volunteer, helping build the first layer of India stack. You will hear about this later this afternoon, which is Aadhaar. So as his volunteer activity, he happens to build a system that has 1 billion users. So please meet Vivek Raghavan again. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek. Hi.